Welcome, fellow men and women of culture. Do you like ugly bastards? What about the ugly bastards of fantasy settings, such as orcs and goblins? Did you like Goblin Slayer, but are disappointed that the anime does not show how vicious these creatures are in a similar fashion as they did in the first episode? If you answered to any of these questions with yes, then boy do I have the game for you. And if you answered no to all of the above, then consider yourself warned. Goblins Burrow is a strategy game in which you take control over a nest of goblins. It is your responsibility to increase their numbers and to pillage. Therefore, you need to leave your burrow, the base of operation, if you will. You will then ambush and raid unsuspecting adventurers and villagers, taking not only their livelihood and their food, but also their lives in the process, as well as their women. Every woman you capture can pass down spells and skills they have acquired themselves. A goblin's seed is very potent, and as the literal pests that they are capable of increasing their numbers incredibly fast. It takes only 3 days for an impregnated female to have a litter of goblins. If you are lucky, you get a higher quality goblin, like a hobgoblin or a shaman, maybe even a paladin, who have all different specialties. A goblin champion, for example, is your best attacker out there, while a paladin is best used as a tank. And a shaman is obviously your best spellcaster. Then you add inheritables into the mix, such as Magic Plus, and it becomes effectively a eugenics program. Fans of Crusader Kings and Fire Emblem Awakening must get watery mouths just at the thought of it. But there are other ways to help you get stronger goblins, aside from selective breeding. You can sometimes train your units by killing off about half your weaker ones, requiring you to have a constant increase in goblin population, unless you can afford to run on 8 goblins or so, or you give them items to make them stronger. But it's not only about managing your goblins, you also have to take care of your brood mothers, because giving birth to goblins over and over and over again takes a toll on your psyche, so you need to give them food so they won't kill themselves. Okay, yeah, no. I'll be completely honest, that makes no fucking sense. It probably should have been hunger so that they won't starve to death, but because you don't get much food in the early game, that was probably then changed to sanity. But, well, it is what it is. I already mentioned that this is a strategy game, but you might be asking, where is the territory acquisition? And that is a fair question. There is none. You only have your burrow to manage and to defend. There is no territory to acquire. In a sense, if you aren't in combat, you are playing a management game. But it is during combat, with either you being the aggressor or defender, that you will have a bit of strategic gameplay. You have two parties. One is your raiding party, the other one is your defensive party. There are 4 slots in each party, 2 are the vanguard and 2 are in the rear. The rear is for the ranged units, while the vanguard is for melee and tank units. You choose who to attack and dwindle down the numbers until only the commander is left standing. Then you kill him. You can also defend, causing you to lose less troops and HP once you're attacked. I probably do not have to explain that you can also use spells as long as you have either mana or a castable spell to begin with. You can also use the auto battle if you just want to get it over with, or even run from the fight. This will cause you to lose all your turns until the next time the very same unit who declared a retreat is up again. So you probably want to be careful about using it, since it can come at a hefty price. But running away is not all bad. The damage you have inflicted is transferred to the next time you attack the group. Thus, hit and run tactics can be costly but necessary at times. But I would recommend just going all in. Because if you lose troops, you might also lose your commander, and then it's a wipe either way. So might as well take most of them with you. The last combat option I have yet to mention would be the option to pillage, meaning you grab whatever is lying around on the battlefield and take it back with you for as long as your unit survives, that is. A defensive battle functions similar, but you do not have the pillage and retreat option, since those battles can cause a game over and take place where there is nothing to take. But you get tools to help you defend better. Those who have seen Goblin Slayer might know where this is going. You can use traps to help you defend against invading enemies. Those can either heal your units, make a random unit of yours invisible, or damage the enemy. Now, what about the age scenes, you might be asking? Well, you get a description of what's happening with a very good voice acted monologue or dialogue between the victim and the goblin, and you are presented with two CGs. One for the act itself, and one where the women get filled up with cream, which for each species that you have in your burrow is different. So there are 12 different CGs per girl. You also get a CG for when the goblins are growing inside of the girls, and one for when they finally come out to play. You could certainly beat your meat to them, and I recommend chicken breasts since it is very therapeutic. But the real focus of those scenes is most certainly in the reactions of the victims. Seeing them cope with what's happening around them is morbidly fascinating. And after experiencing it enough times, the girls just seem to break at some point. Also, the voice acting is just top notch, and it makes it so much more satisfying. I mean that in a good way. Now, there are a few things that I'm kind of missing. It's nothing major, but still kind of disappointing. For one is the option of customizing your burrow. As it's right now, it is just a cave, and while I understand that a game has its limitations, I would have liked to at least do something with that place. Like customizing it, making it a bit more my Goblin's Burrow instead of just a Goblin's Burrow. Another thing that I would have wished for would have been a better tutorial. Don't get me wrong, there is a very good tutorial in place, but there are just a few things that you won't grasp on your first playthrough that you will only learn after your first game over. For example, apparently, somewhere on this screen is a counter counting down to the next invasion, which always comes in set intervals, apparently, but I do not see where. And lastly, I have a big problem with the translation itself. So, the thing is, I bought this game for 20 bucks, which is fine. But if I pay for a translated game, and if I pay 20 bucks for it on top of that, I expect the translation to be 100% done. Which is not the case, as you might have seen already. There is a bunch of untranslated stuff in this game, which is just baffling. Also, the UI, or menu itself, is still in Japanese. I understand that those are most likely assets and changing them is not as easy as simply translating what is written on there, and their solution to this problem is serviceable. But I have bad eyesight. I don't want to have to hover over every panel, then grab a magnifying glass, read what the small window says that I'm hovering over, and then move on to the next panel until I have found what I was looking for. This is especially baffling if you consider that some of them are translated and edited, while others use a symbol to convey the message. And it's even more baffling if you consider that it cost me 20 bucks. Almost 30. Kagura Games, a company that also translates and licenses and sells hentai games, does it a lot better and charges way less per game. You don't have to look at professional translations. Fan translations do that all the fucking time, which makes it even weirder to charge that amount for this translation quality. And to be honest, it comes off as kind of greedy. Safe to say, Goblins Burrow is a good game for those who are itching to play as an evil hive mind, who want to manage said hive mind and want to genetically engineer the strongest and vilest creature imaginable. If you like that kind of stuff, this is the game for you. But it is up to you if you are willing to pay just $30 price tag or if you're willing to look for a cheaper alternative. I'm not talking about piracy. Why would you think that? I'm thinking of traveling to Japan looking for the game itself, then pay 10 bucks, then fly back if you aren't already living in Japan, it is. Although I'm sure we all have some way to bypass the flight one way or another. Heck, you can even get a similar and fully translated experience using Google Lens. I'd say vacation in Japan and buying hentai games is money well spent. And I will see you in the next review.